My sister forced me to pay for her wedding, then laughed at me. I canceled every booking. She stormed in, screaming I'd destroyed her future. Family is supposed to mean loyalty. At least, that's what I grew up believing. But with my sister, loyalty always seemed to be a one-way street. She had this talent for making her problems everyone else's responsibility, and if you refused, you were selfish. When she got engaged, the whole family turned it into a spectacle. Suddenly, her life was a fairy tale, and everyone else's needs were pushed aside. My parents praised her nonstop. She's finally settling down. She deserves this. Meanwhile, I was the steady one, the one expected to carry burdens without complaint. At first, I told myself I didn't mind. She was my sister. Weddings are expensive, stressful, overwhelming. I figured helping with a few things wouldn't kill me. But the requests started small and escalated fast. "Could you just cover the cake deposit?" she asked one evening, sliding the receipt across the table like it was nothing. Then came the photographer, the decorations, the venue deposit. Each time, she phrased it like a temporary favor, a short-term fix until her fiancé got his finances sorted. But those fixes piled up into thousands of dollars, and I realized there was no plan to pay me back. Whenever I hesitated, she flipped the narrative. "Oh, so you don't want your sister to have her special day? You earn more than me. It's not even a big deal for you. You're single, no responsibilities, you can afford it." And the worst part? My parents echoed her. "It's family. You'll get it back someday. Don't make drama." They treated it as if I was stingy for even raising an eyebrow. I wanted to believe them. I wanted to think that maybe, after the wedding, she'd at least acknowledge what I'd done. Instead, the more I gave, the bolder she became. She started mocking me, calling me her walking bank account in front of friends, laughing when I said my savings were shrinking. One night, she actually clinked her glass and toasted, "Here's to my brother. Couldn't have this wedding without him paying for it." Everyone laughed. I laughed too, but inside, I felt like I was being gutted. The final push came a month before the wedding. She stood in my living room, smirking as she showed me the updated cost breakdown. "You'll handle this, right? I mean, you've come this far already. Don't back out now." She said it like I was the punchline to her joke. And that's when I remembered something critical. Every invoice, every booking, every deposit was under my name. My credit card, my signature, my responsibility. If I wanted to, I could make it all disappear with a few phone calls. At the time, I didn't know just how far I'd go. But I knew one thing. I wasn't going to be laughed at anymore. It was late on a Sunday when it all snapped. I had the catering invoice open on my laptop. 5 figures, due in 3 days. My sister had forwarded it to me with a single line. "Pay this now, they need confirmation." No, please. No discussion, just another demand like I was her personal ATM. I sat there staring at the email, my stomach twisted tight. I'd already poured in thousands, venue deposit, photographer, DJ, flowers, even the ridiculous champagne fountain she insisted on. My savings account looked like a drained well, and yet here she was, laughing at me during the week and then sending me bills on Sunday night. I pushed back from my desk and paced. That's when I heard my phone buzz again. A new message. This one from her fiancé. "Hey man, thanks again for taking care of all this. You're a real lifesaver." A smiley face at the end, as if that erased the fact that he hadn't paid a dime toward his own wedding. That was it. Something in me just flipped. I walked to the kitchen, poured myself a glass of water, and stared out the window. My reflection in the glass looked tired, hollow-eyed. I realized I'd become a spectator in my own life, footing the bill while they paraded around planning a dream that wasn't mine. And then the thought landed, sharp and clear. Every single contract is under my name. The venue? My credit card. The catering? My signature. The flowers? My booking. Even the honeymoon flights. They'd push me to just handle it, because the agent needed a card immediately. It hit me like a jolt of electricity. I wasn't trapped. They were. Without me, none of this stood. I sat back down at my laptop, opened the email thread with the catering company, and hovered over the phone number in the signature. My heart was hammering, but not from fear. It was adrenaline. Control. For the first time in months, I felt like I had leverage. I imagined her face if she walked into the venue and found it canceled. The smug grin wiped clean. The laughter silenced. But I didn't dial yet. I wanted to savor this moment, this quiet before the storm. Later that evening, she came over unannounced, waltzing into my apartment like she owned the place. She saw the invoices spread across my desk and grinned. "Don't stress, big brother. You'll figure it out. You always do." That smirk. That mocking little pat on my shoulder like I was her servant. I nodded slowly, hiding the storm brewing inside me. "Yeah," I said. "I'll figure it out." She left humming to herself, probably planning centerpieces or whatever trivial detail she thought mattered most. The second the door closed, I sat back at my desk, picked up my phone, and started dialing the first number on the list. One by one, I was about to erase the wedding she'd built on my back. But that was just the beginning. The first call was to the florist. It took less than 5 minutes to wipe out 6 months of planning. The woman on the line sounded apologetic but professional. "Since the reservation is under your name, sir, you have the right to cancel. The deposit is non-refundable, but we'll process the closure immediately." One email confirmation later, thousands of dollars worth of roses, orchids, and lilies evaporated into thin air. My sister would never even know they'd been on standby. The second call was the DJ. Same story, polite, efficient, gone. I didn't feel guilty. I felt lighter, like I was peeling off chains I hadn't realized I was wearing. The following morning, my sister showed up at my place again. She had that same smug energy, scrolling on her phone like a queen checking her subjects. "So, I need you to forward me the invoice for the florist. I want to double-check the arrangements with them." I sipped my coffee, watching her. "They canceled." Her fingers froze mid-scroll. "What?" "They said there was an issue with the booking. It's no longer valid." For a split second, I saw something raw flash across her face, panic. But she covered it quickly with a scoff. "Ugh, typical vendors. Always messing things up. Fine, just rebook it. You've got their info right." I leaned back in my chair. "No, I don't think so." She narrowed her eyes. "What's that supposed to mean?" I didn't answer right away. I let the silence stretch. The hum of the refrigerator, the faint tick of the clock on the wall. It was the kind of silence that makes people squirm. Finally, I shrugged. "Maybe it's a sign you don't need roses that cost more than most people's rent." Her voice shot up a notch. "Don't start with this. You agreed to help, and now you're backing out? Do you know how embarrassing this is going to be for me?" There it was. For me. Always her, never us. I stood up, slow and steady, and walked past her to the sink. "You'll figure it out. You always do." The words landed heavy, my own echo of what she'd said to me the night before. She didn't miss the parallel. Her face tightened, her lips pressing into a thin line. She stormed toward the door but spun back, pointing a finger at me. "Don't play games, or you'll regret it. You think you can make me look stupid? This is my wedding. You're not going to ruin it." I didn't flinch. I didn't even raise my voice. "Then maybe you should have paid for it yourself." Her jaw dropped slightly, but she didn't have a comeback. She slammed the door hard enough to rattle the frame. I exhaled, slow and calm, and returned to my laptop. Another email confirmation had arrived, this time from the catering company, acknowledging the cancellation. One by one, the empire she built on my wallet was collapsing, and she still had no idea just how deep I'd already cut. Then I found something that confirmed my worst fears. It only took 3 days for everything to unravel. First came the florist, then the DJ, then the catering company. Each one sent her polite but firm messages, confirming that all contracts had been canceled by the account holder, me. I knew the exact moment she pieced it together because she showed up at my job. I was on my lunch break, eating quietly in the break room, when the door banged open and she stormed in like a hurricane in heels. "You." Her voice cut through the room, drawing stares from my coworkers. "Do you think this is funny?" I set down my fork. Calm. Controlled. "What are you talking about?" Her face was blotchy red, hair frazzled like she'd been pulling at it in the car. She slapped a crumpled piece of paper onto the table, a printed email from the venue. I didn't even need to read it. I knew the wording by heart. "Your reservation has been canceled at the request of the contracting party." "You canceled everything," she shrieked. "The venue, the food, the music, everything. Do you have any idea what you've done?" My coworkers froze, some pretending not to listen while obviously hanging on every word. I leaned back in my chair, arms crossed. "Actually, I do." I ended the joke where I was the punchline. Her voice cracked. "This was my future. My one perfect day? And you destroyed it out of spite." I tilted my head. "No, I destroyed the illusion that you could keep using me without consequence." The silence that followed was heavy. She wasn't used to me pushing back. Not like this. She tried again, lowering her voice into something almost pitiful. Do you know how humiliating this is for me? People are asking questions. My friends are calling. His family thinks I'm incompetent. I can't fix this alone. I almost laughed. There it is. The mask slipping. For once, she wasn't mocking me. She was desperate. But instead of sympathy, I felt something colder, vindication. You mocked me, I said evenly. You stood in front of your friends and called me your walking wallet. You laughed when I told you I was running out of savings. And now you want me to feel sorry that the castle you built on my back collapsed? Her lip trembled. For a moment, I thought she might cry. But then the rage snapped back, harder than before. You think you're the hero here? Everyone's going to see you for what you are. A bitter, jealous loser who couldn't stand that his sister had something special. I stood, my chair scraping the floor. The whole room felt like it shrank, air tightening with her words. My hands were steady, though. My voice didn't shake. Funny, I said, because when the contracts are in my name, the receipts are in my files, and the deposits come from my account, everyone will see the truth. And the truth is simple. You didn't pay for your wedding. I did. Until I stopped. Her eyes darted around the room, realizing every set of eyes was on her, watching, judging. For someone who lived for appearances, that public exposure was a knife. She grabbed the crumpled paper and shoved it back into her bag, muttering curses under her breath. On her way out, she spat one last line. You've ruined me. You'll regret this. The door slammed. The sound echoed through the break room. I sat back down, picked up my fork, and finished my lunch. My coworkers whispered to each other, throwing me glances filled with something I hadn't expected, not pity, but respect. When I checked my phone later that night, I saw her barrage of texts, screenshots of group chats where friends were asking why everything was falling apart. Accusations. Pleas. Threats. But one message stood out. From her fiancé. Did you really cancel all this? People are saying we can't rebook in time. What are we supposed to do? And for the first time, I realized this wasn't just about embarrassing her. I had detonated the entire foundation of her future marriage. I wasn't ready for what I was about to discover. 2 days later, my parents called an urgent family meeting. I almost didn't go. I knew what it would be, my sister crying, them lecturing me, the same cycle I'd lived through my whole life. But curiosity dragged me there. The second I walked into their living room, I knew something was off. My sister was sitting on the couch, eyes puffy, phone clutched in her hands. Mom was pacing, Dad glaring like I'd stolen a car. Sit down, Dad snapped. I stayed standing. If this is about the wedding, I already know what you're going to say. Mom shot me a look sharp enough to cut glass. Your sister told us everything. Do you realize what you've done? The humiliation she's facing? The deposits you canceled? I folded my arms. The deposits I paid, you mean? That shut them up for half a second. But then my sister jumped in, voice dripping with rehearsed innocence. I only asked for help. I didn't think he'd sabotage me. He's jealous, Mom. He's always been jealous. Jealous. The word hit like a slap. If anything, I'd been indifferent to her drama for years. But she needed a narrative where I was the villain. Dad jabbed a finger at me. We're family. You should have supported her. Now she is nothing. I almost laughed. Nothing. She still had a fiancé. Friends. A roof over her head. The only thing she'd lost was the fantasy wedding built on my credit card. But then she said something that froze me. It's not just the wedding. The bank called. They said payments on the joint account bounced. I blinked. What joint account? She hesitated just long enough for the truth to bleed through her expression. And then I knew. I pulled out my phone, opened my banking app, and started scrolling. Sure enough, there it was. A secondary line of credit, opened under my name, with my social security number. Maxed out. Tens of thousands in charges. Designer dresses. Spa weekends. Wedding expenses. All of it. My throat went dry. You stole my information. Her face twisted. It wasn't stealing. I had the login from years ago. You never changed your passwords. And it was for both of us. For family. The room spun for a moment. Not from shock, but from clarity. Every smug laugh. Every you'll figure it out. Every time she made me feel like the fool. It had all been cover for something much worse. She hadn't just drained me with her demands. She'd been siphoning my future, too. I looked straight at her, voice flat, calm, lethal. This isn't family. This is fraud. Mom gasped. Dad tried to step between us, but I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. Every receipt is in my inbox. Every charge is in my name. You didn't just ruin your wedding, you committed a crime. Her hands shook. She looked between our parents, begging for backup. But even they couldn't mask their shock now. Dad's face paled. Mom whispered, "Tell me that's not true." Silence. No denial. Just her tears starting again. I slipped my phone back into my pocket. I was going to let you fall with just embarrassment. But now, you've given me something much bigger to work with. And for the first time in her life, my sister had no comeback. This went so much deeper than I thought. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat at my desk with the glow of the laptop screen casting shadows across the room. Tabs open everywhere. My bank, my email, contracts, legal resources. The numbers were brutal. She'd siphoned more money than I could have ever guessed. My credit was stretched, my savings gutted. I should have felt broken, angry, defeated. But instead, something colder settled in me, clarity. I replayed every moment in my head. Her laughter when she called me a walking wallet. The way she dismissed me with a smirk in front of our parents. The smug certainty that I'd always cover her mess. And now, the fraud. There was no doubt anymore. This wasn't about helping family or preserving appearances. It was about survival. If I stayed quiet, I'd carry her debt for years. If I acted, she'd face the weight of her own choices. I opened a fresh document and began typing. A timeline of every expense. Screenshots of every invoice. Copies of every email. Receipts. Bank statements. A paper trail so airtight it would crush any denial she tried to spin. Then I researched the next step. Fraud reporting, small claims procedures, credit protection. Every line I read tightened the plan in my head. I wasn't just reacting. I was building a case. And strangely, I felt calm. Almost peaceful. This wasn't revenge. Not exactly. It was balance. For years, she'd tilted the scale, piling her weight on me until I bent. Now I was simply pressing back. I closed the laptop and leaned back in my chair, exhaling slowly. My decision was already made. No hesitation left. No guilt to gnaw at me. It wasn't about if anymore. Only how. And I already had the answer. I didn't hesitate anymore. It wasn't about if. It was only about how, and I already had the answer. The next morning, I made my first move. Not in secret, not in shadows, out in the open. I walked into the bank as soon as the doors opened. A folder under my arm, packed with printouts, invoices, contracts, screenshots, and the fraudulent credit account tied to my name. The manager greeted me politely, expecting another routine visit. Instead, I laid everything out on his desk. "This isn't mine," I said, pointing at the fraudulent line of credit. It was opened using my information without authorization, and I know exactly who did it. His face tightened. He skimmed through the documents, nodding as I explained. When I finished, he exhaled. "This is serious. We'll need to escalate this immediately." "Good," I replied, my voice steady. "Escalate it." By the time I left, an official fraud investigation was underway. They'd already frozen the account. Her safety net was gone. Step 2 was contacting the venue directly. I didn't need to. It was already canceled, but I wanted to ensure the final nail was hammered in. "Yes," I told the coordinator on the phone. "The cancellation stands. Please confirm nothing can be reinstated without my consent." She confirmed. Done. Irreversible. I felt lighter walking out of that call than I had in months. But the real storm came that evening. My sister burst into my apartment without knocking, slamming the door against the wall. Her eyes were wild, her voice a mix of rage and desperation. "What did you do at the bank?" I didn't flinch. I was ready for this. "I stopped you from dragging me into debt that isn't mine." Her voice cracked into a shriek. "You reported me? Do you know what this means?" "They called me already. They froze the account. You've ruined everything." I leaned against the counter, arms crossed, calm as a stone. "No, you ruined it when you thought you could steal from me and laugh in my face." She pointed at me, her hand trembling. "If you don't undo this, You'll what?" I cut her off, my voice low, controlled. "Go ahead. Threaten me. Yell. Cry. It doesn't change the paper trail. You can scream all you want, but the bank has the receipts. And so do I." For the first time, she faltered. Her bravado cracked, her chest heaving like she was drowning in air. "You think this makes you strong?" she spat, voice shaking. "It makes you cruel. Everyone's going to see you for the monster you are." I shook my head slowly. "No, they're going to see the truth. And the truth is you built your dream on lies. All I did was pull the curtain back. She didn't answer. She just stood there, breathing hard, before spinning on her heel and storming out. The door slammed again, rattling the frame. I stood in the silence, calm and steady, the adrenaline settling into a cold, quiet certainty. For the first time in years, I wasn't the one cornered. I thought it was over. I couldn't have been more wrong. For a couple of days, there was silence. No phone calls, no surprise visits, no screaming at my door. It felt unreal. I went to work, came home, made dinner, and for once the air didn't feel heavy. My phone buzzed occasionally, but it was just friends or coworkers. Not her, not my parents. Part of me wondered if she had finally accepted it, that the fantasy wedding was over, the money was gone, and the fraud couldn't be undone. Maybe, just maybe, she'd disappear for a while and deal with the wreckage herself. On the third evening, I even allowed myself a small moment of peace. I sat on my balcony with a beer, watching the sunset bleed into the horizon, the city humming below. For the first time in months, my shoulders weren't locked in tension. I almost smiled. Maybe this is it, I thought. Maybe the storm has finally passed. The next morning, my parents called. Mom's voice was tight, forced. Your sister wants to talk. She's calmer now. We think you should come over and at least listen. I hesitated, but something in her tone sounded different. Not pleading, not angry, just tired. Against my better judgment, I agreed. When I arrived, my sister was sitting quietly at the kitchen table, hair tied back, eyes lowered. No makeup, no dramatic gestures. Just silence. She looked small. I get it, she said finally, her voice low. You wanted to teach me a lesson. You did. I lost everything. I'm humiliated. But can we please just stop this before it gets worse? For Mom and Dad's sake. It was the closest thing to an apology I'd ever heard from her. For a moment, I felt something soften in me. Maybe this was the turning point. Maybe she had finally hit rock bottom. I nodded slowly. If you're serious, then fine. We'll let the bank handle the fraud investigation and we move on. But don't ever ask me for another dime. She gave the smallest nod, her eyes glistening. It felt final. But peace never lasts long in my family. The calm didn't last long. The so-called truce didn't last a week. It started with whispers, friends sending me screenshots of Facebook posts where my sister painted herself as the tragic victim. Betrayed by family. Wedding destroyed. Future stolen. She didn't mention the fraud, of course. Just the cancellations, twisting the story so I looked like the jealous brother who couldn't stand her happiness. Then the messages started. Strangers sliding into my DMs with insults. Some calling me heartless, others accusing me of abuse. Her narrative was spreading fast, and people were eating it up. But the real blow landed on a Saturday afternoon. I walked into my parents' house, invited under the pretense of a family lunch. Instead, I found a full-blown intervention. My sister sat at the table flanked by my parents, a box of tissues dramatically placed in front of her. Dad's voice was steel. We've talked it over. You need to fix this. Rebook the vendors, unfreeze the accounts, and make this right. I blinked at him. Fix this? You mean pay for it all again, after she committed fraud in my name? Mom's eyes narrowed. She made mistakes, yes, but family forgives. You've always been the stronger one. You can absorb this. That word, absorb, made something inside me snap. Like my entire life had been condensed into one expectation. Absorb her chaos. Absorb her debt. Absorb her cruelty. I shook my head slowly. No, not this time. My sister slammed her palm on the table, finally breaking her silence. You think you're some kind of hero? Everyone sees you for what you are, a petty, bitter little man who can't stand me being happy. You're going to lose everyone. Friends, family, your reputation gone. All because you couldn't swallow your pride for one day. Her voice cracked, but not from tears. From rage. Pure, unfiltered rage. I pulled out my phone, scrolling to the folder I'd built, the one labeled evidence. With one tap, the screen lit up with documents, account statements, contracts, screenshots. I placed it on the table and slid it forward. Do you want to see what everyone's really going to see? Because I'm done keeping this quiet. For a split second, fear flashed across her face. Then Mom leaned forward, her voice low and sharp. You wouldn't dare. You'd ruin this family. I met her eyes, calm and steady. No, she already ruined it. I'm just cleaning up. The room erupted. Dad shouted, Mom begged, my sister cursed. But I sat in silence, watching the chaos like it was a storm I'd already outlasted. Finally, my sister stood, trembling with fury. "If you go through with this, I swear I'll drag you down with me. I'll tell everyone you hit me, that you've always been violent. Who do you think they'll believe? The sweet bride-to-be, or the bitter brother who destroyed her wedding?" It was a nuclear threat, false accusations meant to destroy me completely. And for a moment, the weight of it pressed against my chest. But then I remembered the paper trail, the evidence, the receipts that painted the truth more clearly than any lie could. I leaned forward, my voice ice. "Try it. See how fast your lies crumble when the bank, the vendors, and the courts show up. You're not untouchable anymore. You're cornered." The room fell into silence. Heavy, suffocating silence. My sister's face twisted, caught between fear and hatred. She grabbed her bag, shoved the tissues aside, and stormed out. My parents followed, throwing me looks of betrayal, but they didn't say another word. I sat there alone at the table, my phone glowing faintly with the evidence folder still open. For the first time, I realized this wasn't just family drama anymore. This was war. What happened next made me question everything I thought I knew. I thought she'd retreat after our last confrontation. I thought the silence meant she was finally cornered. But I should have known better. My sister was never the type to bow out quietly. It happened at a family gathering the following weekend. A cousin's birthday, nothing fancy, just relatives crammed into a living room, kids running around, laughter mixing with the smell of food. I walked in, trying to stay neutral, polite, invisible even. But the moment she saw me, I knew she had been waiting for this. She stood up, glass in hand, and tapped it like she was giving a speech. The chatter died down. All eyes turned. "I can't stay silent anymore," she began, her voice trembling with rehearsed vulnerability. "My own brother has been tormenting me for months. He sabotaged my wedding, ruined everything I worked for. And now," her voice cracked perfectly on cue, "he's threatening me. He told me if I didn't do what he wanted, he'd hurt me." The room gasped. My mother buried her face in her hands. Dad looked at me with disgust. Relatives shook their heads, whispers spreading like wildfire. My chest tightened, but not from fear. From anger. From the audacity of it all. She wasn't just twisting the truth anymore. She was fabricating a whole new reality. I raised a hand, calm and steady. "That's a lie." But she was ready. She pulled out her phone, waving it around. "I have the messages to prove it. Look," she scrolled, showing the screen to the nearest relatives. Snippets of texts, cropped screenshots, words pulled out of context. To someone who didn't know better, it looked damning. The whispers grew louder. I felt the shift in the room, like the walls themselves were pressing in. People who had hugged me minutes earlier now eyed me with suspicion. My parents wouldn't even meet my gaze. For a moment, I stood there alone, outnumbered, surrounded by judgment. But inside, I wasn't shaken. I'd seen this play before. Her desperation, her flair for drama, her need to control the narrative. She thought if she screamed loud enough, the truth would vanish. I let her talk. I let her cry, rant, play the victim. The angrier she became, the calmer I grew. Finally, when the room felt like it had turned completely against me, I spoke. My voice was low even. "Are you done?" She froze mid-rant, caught off guard. "Because I've been quiet long enough?" I continued, pulling my phone from my pocket. "And unlike you, I don't need to fake screenshots." Her eyes widened, panic flickering for the first time. I didn't show my hand yet. Not there. Not in front of cousins and aunts and kids running around. But I wanted her to know. I wanted her to feel it. The shift of power, the weight of the silence turning back on her. They thought I was finished. I thought, scanning the faces around me. But they never realized. I've been saving the real ending for her. They thought I was finished. But they never realized. I had been saving the real ending for them. I didn't rush. That was the key. My sister thrived on chaos, screaming, crying, throwing accusations until people bent under the noise. But I wasn't playing her game anymore. I was building my own. The opportunity came sooner than I expected. My parents organized a family mediation, desperate to patch things up before her fiancé's family walked away entirely. They invited both sides, hoping for reconciliation. What they got instead was Judgment Day. The living room was packed. My parents, her fiancé, his parents, a couple of uncles and aunts dragged in for neutrality. My sister sat in the center like a tragic queen, tissues in hand, eyes red from crying. When I walked in, She gave me the kind of smile that said, "You're already finished." Her fiancé's mother spoke first. "We need to resolve this. Weddings are stressful, but the stories we're hearing, they're deeply concerning." My sister launched into her performance immediately. "He sabotaged everything. He canceled the bookings. He froze the accounts. He even threatened me." I was terrified. "And now he's trying to paint me as a criminal." Gasps. Murmurs. Eyes shifting toward me with suspicion. I let it hang in the air for a moment. Then I set my folder on the table. Thick, heavy, bulging with months of receipts, statements, contracts. "Enough stories," I said, my voice cutting through the noise. "Let's deal in facts." I opened the folder and slid copies across the table. Venue contract, my signature. Catering invoice, my credit card. Florist receipt, my email confirmation. One after another, the documents piled up, each one heavier than her lies. "She didn't pay for this wedding." I continued, my tone flat, steady. "I did, until I stopped. And when that wasn't enough, she opened a fraudulent account in my name. Here," I held up the bank's fraud investigation letter, "is proof. Her charges, her purchases, her signature, my identity stolen." Her face drained of color. She reached for the papers, but her fiancé's father caught her wrist. He was staring at the documents with eyes gone hard. Her fiancé turned to her, voice trembling. "Is this true?" She stammered. "No. I mean, he's twisting it. This isn't." But I wasn't done. I unlocked my phone and mirrored the screen onto the TV. Message threads, full and uncropped. Every smug comment she'd sent about me being her walking wallet. The group chat screenshots where she joked about draining me dry. And finally, the bank emails confirming the fraud report. Silence. Thick, suffocating silence. Then, a whisper from her fiancé's mother. "Madre de Dios." My sister's mask shattered. She went from denial to rage in seconds, slamming her hand on the table. "He's lying. He set me up. You're all blind." But the room wasn't buying it anymore. Her fiancé pushed back his chair, standing stiff as stone. "We're done," he said flatly. "There's no wedding. Not now. Not ever." Her scream was raw, animalistic. She lunged toward him, but her parents caught her. My father looked furious, not at me, but at her. For the first time in my life, he wasn't defending her. I stood, gathering my folder, calm as ice. "This doesn't end here. The bank already has everything. There will be legal consequences. And if you try to drag my name through the mud again, these documents go public." Her voice cracked. "You'll regret this." I met her eyes, steady and cold. "No, you will." And then I walked out. No more shouting, no more explanations. Just silence behind me, the sound of her empire collapsing in real time. On the way home, my phone buzzed with messages from relatives who'd seen everything. Some apologizing, some admitting they'd believed her lies. A few even thanking me for finally standing up to her. For once, I didn't feel like the victim. I felt like the one holding the pen that rewrote the story.